You ready for a wander, Meg? Come on, let's put your lead on. Wait there. Good girl. Come on in. Good girl. Good girl. Come on in. Good girl. Come on. Where are we going then, Meg? Come on, find me something good. Still some fabulous colour, despite the recent strong winds, so it's looking pretty good. What do you reckon to these beech trees, Meg? They look fantastic, beautiful colour. Still holding on to a good amount of leaves, which is nice. I think it's worth staying a bit more elevated to start with, and then we'll gradually make our way a bit closer, but hopefully there's something here. Still very windy, Meg. I don't think we're going to get any sharp leaf detail today. See if we can use this wind to our advantage. So typically, wind is my least favourite type of weather, usually favouring the calm conditions so you can kind of concentrate on all the lovely detail, get all those lovely sharp textures. And it's just something really lovely about walking through a calm, still woodland. But not being able to escape the wind recently, so I thought I might as well try and embrace it before all the leaves are ripped off the trees. There's still a good amount of leaves on these beech trees, a mixture of orange, yellow and green, which is nice. So I'm purposely going to try and harness the wind today, blur some of these leaves, get something a bit more abstract, get a feeling of that motion and movement, but somehow add a little bit of depth as well, because there's nothing in the way of atmosphere, it's just a flat grey sky, but that can work quite well with some of these autumn colours. So yeah, see if we can make something work here, I think. Firstly, I feel like I should apologise that I've been a bit off grid for the last few weeks, but the truth is I actually went to Scotland for a week-long trip to scout for a workshop, and had all these grand ideas of producing a video every day, coming back with an abundance of content, but the day before I went away I had some pretty terrible news that so I struggle to talk about this without always getting upset. Whew. Yeah, one of my friends took his own life, which yeah, hit me pretty hard. So yes, I found it really hard. It was tragic. It was particularly poignant and emotive when you consider the difficult situation that we're all facing at the minute. You know, in this country we've just gone back into a national lockdown. So I just couldn't face talking to the camera in Scotland. I just needed that time just to process things in my mind, put things into perspective and just try and enjoy my time outdoors as much as I possibly could. And it helped, it really, really did. Very difficult at first, but then as each day passed by, I started to enjoy the photography a little bit more. And I could think a bit about all the positive and fun times that I had with my friend. But yes, back home now, but because of the lockdown, all my further workshops have been cancelled, so I thought I've just got to get out, no matter what the weather, even though it's dull, it's windy, it feels as if it's about to rain. I thought I've just got to go out and try and make something work. And it's just one of those days. If I make a nice image, then great. If not, then I'm not overly concerned. But like I said, I want to harness the wind today, capture some of that motion. And I just spotted this here and I thought it was quite nice. Something a little bit more abstract, concentrating on patterns of colour and shape. We've got this swooping beech branch which just comes in from left and then goes low into the scene. Out in the distance we've got an oak tree which leans in the opposite direction. So we've got some really nice complementary shapes there. Some nice arrangements of colour with some beautiful orange beech leaves, some green, light green and yellow leaves as well. We've got some ferns which are turning colour. We've got all the leaves on the woodland floor. Looks like there's some bright yellow lime leaves back there, and then some of the green and splashes of earthy colour as well. So it is, like I said, a little bit more abstract, more about the patterns, more about the colour, and just these lovely complementary shapes. Now, If you've watched my previous videos, you'll probably realise that I very rarely use a polarising filter. The glare that you get on leaves, I actually quite like it. I like the contrast it creates, sometimes the depth that it creates. It's just a nice natural look. However, when I'm going for that motion blur, what I don't want is any bright spots in leaves to create all these blurred highlights within the scene. I just think that'll be a little bit distracting. I want to concentrate more on the richness of the colour. So I've put the polarizer on just to cut through that. But the other benefit of that is that it's going to slow down the shutter speed so I can get everything nice and blurred. I'm going to focus on the oak tree right back there because all these blowing branches, that's going to be blurred anyway. Like I said, I want that motion and it's more about the colours and shapes. So yeah, I framed up a 4x5. We'll see how that turns out. I could do with the light just lifting a little bit. So I'll linger a little bit longer and hope that happens. Nice to get something with these silver birch in. Lovely contrast to the warm leaves. The birch bark. Quite nice shapes to these actually. I'm sure there must be something here. Again, all the lines and shapes of the branches need to kind of complement the flow of colour through the scene, just so it all kind of comes together cohesively. So as usual, lots of small movements left and right, all in an effort to try and find balance. I think, although I like the beech leaves, I think the actual beech branches and trunk themselves might actually interfere with what I want to achieve here with these birch, but I'll keep trying. Now, the thing that I was particularly drawn to was the birch trunks contrasting against the beech leaves. Not only is it a contrast of colour, but a contrast of species, so I quite like that combination. Now, I struggled a little bit because ideally I wanted to exclude the beech trunk. I have taken a version which includes that, and I've also tried a square crop to exclude that as much as I possibly can, just to concentrate on that lovely contrast of the coolness in the birch trunk against the warmness of the beech leaves. There's some quite nice dynamics, some nice shapes to the birch trunks as well, and there's one or two on the opposite bank which is just giving that little bit of depth. There's some darkness from the pine trees back there as well, so again it's allowing those birch trunks to stand out. So yeah, there's some really nice ingredients there, but it's just the challenge of bringing it all together as usual. But I think it's worked out quite well. Now the wind has died down just a little bit, so I've put a 3-stop filter in there as well, just to slow that shutter speed down a little bit more, because I'm still enjoying that softness of the leaves blowing against the static birch trunks. And the light did actually lift for a second. There's a patch of blue sky up there, and I'm quite a big fan of blue sky when photographing autumn scenes, because it allows the kind of cool ambient glow that you get, allows the coolness of the birch bark to come through, and then again working on that contrast between the coolness and the warmth in the scene. So yeah, we'll see how that turns out, but yeah, I think it's quite nice. And to be honest, under conditions and the fading light, I think, and I've just stuck to this small area here. These appealed to me, and I thought, right, let's just make something work. And so I think under the circumstances, yeah, I'm quite happy with it. I've enjoyed the process anyway. That's the main thing. So yeah, see what you make of that. Now, I'll have to admit that this isn't the result that I wanted, but I'm absolutely convinced that there's potential here.
I still love the dynamic shapes to the silver birch and the softening of the contrasting beech leaves, but the background isn't working for me and the overall feel is a little cluttered rather than flowing. I feel pretty certain that a more delicate approach on a calm and murky morning will do the trick, so I'm happy to log this one away in the memory bank for a future visit.
Well, it's only 4 p.m, but the light is fading extremely quickly now, so I think it's time for me to call it a day. But that was a nice couple of hours just wandering in this very, very small area here. It's the first time I've been to this part of this small woodland, but definitely worthwhile. I mean, if nothing else, I found some really nice subjects that I definitely want to come back to, so that's good. I think autumn still has some legs. I'll definitely be targeting my efforts on some of the oak trees in the next week or two. But going back to what I was saying earlier about my friend, I just wanted to say that my friend came across as the happiest, jolliest person you could ever meet. He was always smiling, he was always laughing, but behind the scenes, he was obviously really struggling in a very dark place, and that kind of was a huge shock to a massive amount of people. So if there's anybody watching this and you're suffering in silence, then for God's sake, please just reach out and speak to somebody. Even if you think that there's nobody who will listen, somebody will. I just guarantee it. You know, my friend thought that he couldn't turn to anyone, but there was, you know, dozens and dozens of people that would have been there for him if he asked. So yeah, please do not suffer in silence. Reach out. It's a really difficult time right now for a lot of people, and we should be there for one another. But yeah, thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.